Hi, everybody. How clear am I coming through or unclear?
Not very clear. You about every other word.
Hello?
Yeah, as I said yesterday when we did this, or the day
Oh,
before, you were
dear.
coming in fine.
Um, yeah, and there's nothing, I mean, everything's off, nothing's on in here. And it's the same, I'm hardwired. I'm so sorry.
Okay, now you're coming in fine.
Okay, well, let's hope that lasts. You let me know if it doesn't.
Okay, now whatever you did is better. Now you're not having any issues.
I just got worried. That was all I did. So you see, you can solve technology just by being worried. I didn't touch a thing. So let's hope my worry lasts for the next 40 minutes.
Okay.
So for everybody, I think that social media is a double-edged sword. There are obviously fantastic things that can happen when you jump on social media, and there are not great things that can happen. Usually, the things that are not great are things that happen by your own hand. And so I don't think that social media makes people stupid. I think social media has the opportunity to have wonderful things happen, but you can't be stupid with it. So what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, and along the way I'm going to give you some tips about how you can safely navigate it as well as sort of keep it under your control. When we talk about digital immigrants and digital natives, just be very clear. Most digital immigrants are over the age of 50, and we were brought up entirely differently. And we have a natural sort of instinct for privacy that some digital natives don't have, just because of the nature of society now with social media. So the fact that some people overshare on social networking doesn't mean that you have to. You can be the person you are every day. You're just going to be that person across a broader spectrum. So let's first look at Facebook. And I'm sure a lot of you are on Facebook. And if there are those of you that are hesitant to be on Facebook, I want to walk you through some of the advantages of it without exposing yourself. What we're looking at right now, and I mean exposing yourself both literally and figuratively, depending on your choices with what you're doing with your photographs. This is sort of the home page on a Facebook account. It changes, gets redesigned sometimes. But you'll see sort of below the header is the right-hand column is where I would be seeing what I've shared on Facebook. We're going to sort of walk through how to look at what other people are sharing with you. But first, I want to point out, for those of you that are not on Facebook, because you're not much of a sharer and you don't feel like you have a lot of time and you don't really see the benefit, what I'm showing you now is a page that shows the different pages that I have liked on Facebook. I show that to you because you don't ever have to have a friend on Facebook. That is a person who you've allowed to see what you share on Facebook, and you in turn see what they share. You can just like particular pages on Facebook. And it could be something as simple as the local restaurants you like to go to see what they're having for their specials that night, or do they have a coupon that you could print. In this case, what you see is I like to ride bikes. So I've liked Cleveland PC user groups. So you could join all the user group pages that are on Facebook.
Start worrying more, Abby.
Get their helpful information and never have. Can you hear me now? Sounds like a bad ad for a cell phone. Huh. This could be New York City and the volumes of signals flying through the air right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I do. As I said, you go for a couple minutes.
Oh, dear. Sorry, this is something that's probably a New York City issue and nothing I can do anything about in the apartment. Well, you know what? I'm going to forge ahead because I don't think there's any way to correct this because it's just the internet connection that's in. I'm hardwired to everything. I will forge ahead and I will apologize right now for
I don't know if it'd do you any good to
the
sign
fact
off.
that you might miss some of this, but the PowerPoint,
I was going to say you may want to
I can try.
sign off and sign back on again.
All right, let's give it a go.
Yeah, sign completely off Zoom and then sign back in again and see if we can get a little bit better connection. There you go.
Okay.
I'm sorry, people. Technology at its best. We can plan for everything except good internet connections. I'm hoping she'll be back in a minute because I know you don't want me to.
Okay. Are we back again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does it sound clearer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I'm so sorry about that. I'm actually going to close out of that. Okay, so I'm going to speed through this now. I was pitching the notion that you could join other pages that are of interest to you. Let's skip right on down to this notion that when you're on social media, the best way to protect yourself is to use my test, which is called the front door test. And that means before you share anything on social media, you always ask yourself whether or not you'd be comfortable putting it on the front door to your home. That's the outside of the front door and not the inside of the front door. So in other words, when I go on vacation, and I'm spending my first night in Hawaii, let's fantasize for a moment, and I've taken a beautiful picture of a sunset, and I put it on Facebook, and I say, this is the first of 14 sunsets. I can't wait to share more with you. I live in New York City. I'm never going to post on the front door of my apartment that I'm not going to be here for 13 more days, because not only will they break into my apartment, but they'll break in for the next 13 days so they can slowly take things out of the apartment. So I want you to be very aware that what you're sharing, even if you only have 2 friends on Facebook or only 2 people are following you on Twitter, that there's nothing that you can do to prevent somebody from sharing what you've shared with other people. So it's not that you have a limited audience under any circumstances, because you can't control other people. So always ask yourself the question, would I be comfortable with this on the outside of the front door to my home? And that's the safest thing. Forget about the privacy settings or all of that. This is the best question you can ask yourself. Let's do some logistics here for navigating on Facebook. In the left-hand column there, you see I've circled the word newsfeed. Facebook decides whether you see things in their order of events or whether you see what's trending. And I like to see things in the order of their events. So if you see newsfeed up in the left-hand corner when you're on Facebook, notice that little down arrow. And sometimes the arrows are now replaced with 3 stacked circles, depending on what you're looking at it on. If you click on that, What opens up for you is the ability for you to choose whether the order of things on your feed are the top stories at the top or whether it's the most recent stories at the top. So let me go back to that slide again. Look at your window. On the left-hand sidebar, notice that it says News Feed, and there'll either be an arrow or 3 circles there. When you click on that, you get the choice of whether or not you're seeing top stories or most recent. Unfortunately, Facebook doesn't remember your choice. And so you have to go back and you have to repeat that decision every time you sign in. But I much prefer to see the things that are most recent and not the top stories. That's up to you. Another navigation tool that you might not be aware of is this is a post that I put up. You know I put it up because it has my name at the top. So I posted this issue of, the Heirloomist. It's a friend of mine that takes amazing photographs. After I post something on Facebook, I have a choice about changing what I posted. Specifically, I really hate spelling errors or grammatical errors. Drives me crazy. And initially I thought when I posted something on Facebook, if I made an error or I wanted to update the text, I didn't have an option to. But you do. Notice I circled those 3 little dots in the top right corner. When you click on those 3 little dots, it used to be a down arrow, but now it's dots. A drop menu appears for you, and you have a choice about what you can do with this post that you posted. You could save the link, you could edit the post, you could change the date, you could embed it. They're all different things. Most importantly, you could delete it, which is the second one from the bottom. Now, just remember, once you put something out into the universe and 2 days later you decide to delete it, it doesn't actually mean that you can erase it from people's memories or stop them, had they captured it at that time, from sharing it with other people. So you still want to use the front door test to be sure, but should you decide to delete it, you can't delete history, but you can delete it from today forward. So those 3 little circles are really important. They're so subtle, but they're very important for you to notice so that you can click on and make changes. But what if it's not a post that you posted, like in this case, I posted this, but it's a post that somebody else posted? Colette is a friend of mine on Facebook, and she posted something, and then I decided I want to see whether or not I can save this post or get rid of it. And in fact, those 3 little circles are your friend again. When you click on those, when it's somebody else's post, a drop menu appears for you. Now, what's interesting is, there are 2 very specific choices here for most people. You could hide this post, which means you'll see fewer posts like this. You could snooze the person, which is a new feature where you could actually temporarily stop seeing their posts for the next 30 days. Let's say they're fixating on their 50th birthday coming up or something. And you're like, oh, until it's over with, I don't want to see anything more from them because I'm tired of hearing about their birthday. You could snooze the person, or you could completely unfollow the person. Now, when you unfollow them, you're going to stop seeing their posts, but you haven't, quote unquote, unfriended them. So Colette would still be a friend of mine on Facebook, but I would stop seeing her posts pop up. If I wanted to go to Colette's page and see what she's doing, I could always do that. So unfollowing isn't the same as unfriending. But the key really is those 3 little circles that used to be a down arrow in that top corner allow you to make some choices that you might not know that you had on your fingertips. So to sort of wind up here with Facebook, Facebook is the largest social networking site right now online. If you talk to your grandkids, you know, less of them are using it all the time. They're more apt to be using Instagram, which we'll talk about in a minute. Most people look at, I think 85% of people look at Facebook on a handheld device, a tablet or a phone, instead of on their computer. I find that I don't see as much as I want to when I'm on my phone than when I'm on the computer. I tend to see more posts when I'm on the computer. Facebook definitely directs your posts. The more they see what you like and don't like, the more they direct information to you, which is a whole nother conversation about whether or not we actually want that to happen, because it means they're filtering things for you based on what you like. I kind of like to see things that I don't like because they're things I wouldn't choose to see, and then it makes it interesting, but that's a whole nother conversation. So we're going to now talk about Twitter versus Facebook. Yes, as it was pointed out the other day, there's Kim Kardashian. You just can't get away from her when you're on social media. So Twitter is like Facebook in that you can initiate your relationship with them via a website, or you could do it with an app on your smartphone or your tablet. You're going to give them an email address, just the way you do with Facebook. So you might want to choose a secondary email address so you don't get a lot of mail in your primary email from them. The difference with Twitter and Facebook is on Facebook, you are friends with somebody on Facebook, and that means you two interact. It's reciprocal. On Twitter, you follow someone on Twitter, or they follow you, and it is not necessarily reciprocal. So you could choose to follow somebody like Kim Kardashian, and Kim's not going to follow you potentially. You could choose to follow anybody that's on Twitter. And the other thing that's very important with Twitter for you to realize is on Facebook, they try to the best of their ability to be sure that the people on Facebook are real people and are not using false identities. Obviously, this has proven to be a problem for them to monitor, but Twitter is entirely different. Twitter, you can be anybody you want to be. You want to take on the name Yellowbird and misrepresent who you are, that's perfectly fine with Twitter. So there's a sense of anonymity on Twitter. Twitter looks a lot like Facebook, where you see the people that you're following on Twitter, what they posted, and you in turn can see what you've posted. What makes it different is sort of the language around tweets. So this is an example of a tweet that I'm typing. So the top image is the whole screen, but at the bottom you see the actual tweet that I wrote. And this was when I was doing a presentation for Senior Planet here in New York City. So I said, talking Twitter with the folks at Senior Planet, #TechFun. So these are terms that you don't actually use on Facebook very much, and Twitter made them super popular. Let's break it down here. The @ symbol. Remember when people used CB radios and you had a handle on the CB radio? And, well, when I was a kid, when CB radios and truckers were a popular thing, my handle was Kitty Litter. And my best friend's handle was Terry Cloth. So we would talk to the truckers on our CB radios when we were like 12, and we would say, this is Kitty Litter and Terry Cloth. The @ symbol is the prelude to what your handle is on Twitter. So in this case, Senior Planet was who I wanted to make everybody aware of that I was talking about in my tweet. So when I put @Senior Planet with the @ symbol before it, it means that I'm calling out that person or organization, and they will also be notified that I sent this tweet out because their name is contained in it. So when you're on Twitter, you do the @ symbol and the actual handle that somebody uses on their Twitter account, and that way they'll know that you mentioned them in a tweet. The hashtag is different than the @ symbol. The hashtag is sort of to give a topic a name if you wanted to search for it. So I put in #TechFun, which means anybody who searches Twitter to find somebody who's talking about tech fun will find this tweet, this post that I put up. And hashtags, they can be long, they can be short, there are new ones all the time, and some of them tend to trend. If we go back to that very first image here, you'll see in the left-hand column, it says trends, and this was a while ago, but it has hashtags and all of these topics that are trending. I love the third one down. #weird things I can't understand was trending on that particular day. Boy, do we all understand that. You'll notice when somebody writes a hashtag that has multiple words in it, when they use capital letters for the start of each word, it tends to make it a little bit more understandable for the person seeing it and then in turn typing it. So it's just a little nuance there. So when it comes to Twitter, They're followers and you're following somebody. So it's not reciprocal. The @ symbol and the hashtag are very common. Twitter is getting more and more popular all the time as Facebook remains popular but is receding with young people. It's up to you what you use it for. I sort of use it for Monarch Notes. And what I mean by that, if you remember what Monarch Notes when you were in high school is, I don't follow celebrities on Twitter. I don't have time for that. I follow people in the tech industry and people in publishing, because those are my two industries that I have for business. So rather than my having to go search online or in a magazine or newspaper for the most recent article from a writer that I admire, I follow them on Facebook. And it tends to be that people who write, whether it be about technology or as in publishing in general, they will put onto Twitter a link to their most recent article. Of course they will, because it's great self-promotion. So you don't need to think of Twitter. If you're hearing about people using Twitter just following celebrities and that doesn't appeal to you, I want to give you the practical notion that you can use Twitter to follow people whose writing you like, or topics. If you're into antique cars, search for hashtag antique cars and then see who is it that's talking about that topic, and then decide if that's somebody you want to follow because they're particularly interesting to you. So all of social media, it really only is beneficial if you find the benefit to you. I think sort of jumping in there just because it exists, you can certainly do that if you want to, but I don't think you're finding the deep benefit of it until you figure out how it actually caters to your needs. Let's talk about LinkedIn. It's interesting. So Facebook is the big Goliath in all of this. And Facebook is for all ages and any topics. You could have your company site on there if you wanted to. You could just talk about making chocolate chip cookies if you want to. Twitter, again, is hugely expansive and sort of takes in everything. LinkedIn is a little bit different than both of those, because LinkedIn is primarily for people either still in the workforce or people who are retired who want to follow information about where they were, what industry they were employed in. So LinkedIn is really about connecting people regarding work. LinkedIn doesn't have friends and it doesn't have followers. What it has is connections. So you're connected to somebody when you're on LinkedIn. I have 2 pages on Facebook. I have my personal page on Facebook, and then I have an Ask Abby Stokes page on Facebook. I'm quite particular on Facebook. I know everybody who's on my personal page. I don't, a lot of people look at social media as a way of proving their popularity. And so the numbers are very important to some people. The numbers of followers they have on Twitter or the numbers of friends they have on Facebook. I don't care at all. As a matter of fact, I was once uninvited to speak at a seminar because they decided I didn't have enough Twitter followers. I don't have people on Twitter that I'm not interested in looking at. And I, in turn, don't really think most people are that interested in what I put on Twitter. I don't put up very much. So my numbers are low because I'm using it for a very specific reason. On Facebook, on my personal page, it's all people that I know. My professional page, that isn't true because I welcome anybody to come look at what I post there. LinkedIn is one of those media sites that, depending on your preference, I let anybody who wants to connect with me on LinkedIn connect with me, because you never know with 6 degrees of separation what might be a beneficial connection. So I don't filter it because I don't put anything personal on LinkedIn. If I put something on LinkedIn, it's professional stuff, and I want professionals to be able to connect with me, whether they're engaging me for a speaking engagement or talking about writing an article. So again, it's up to you. LinkedIn, if you're still employed and you're looking for employment or employees, it's a huge benefit, because LinkedIn sort of gets rid of the whole notion of you're sending your resume in the mail or as an email attachment. Somebody can go directly to LinkedIn, look up what you put on as your resume, and see what references and recommendations have come in from some of your connections. So if you're seeking employment or know somebody who is seeking employment, LinkedIn is absolutely essential. There's no getting around that. You'd be foolish not to have a LinkedIn account. But if you're retired, you might still want to be on LinkedIn if you're interested in seeing what's still happening in your industry. And again, you can have people on LinkedIn that are both social for you or that are companies. Now, I want to move on to Instagram. So again, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn all share the same way of connecting with them. You're going to sign into either their website or on their app, and you're going to give them an email address as your identification and a password. So again, you might want to use your second email address if you have one. Instagram, which is hugely popular with younger people, is less talk and more image. And I think that's probably why it's so popular, because it actually requires much less maintenance. So let's look at, what we're looking at on this screen is if I was going into Instagram on their website. But if you're going into Instagram on a smartphone or a tablet, which is, again, 85% of those people that use it do, I think it's probably higher for Instagram, that's what the app looks like on the left-hand side. And here's a sample of somebody's post, Katie Pilot's post on Instagram. Katie has this fabulous dog that she loves. So this is where an image is worth 1,000 words. Because Katie didn't do anything about that post except right below it you can see it's Katie Pilot. She just said happy hour. And then she did a couple of hashtags because she also posted this on Twitter, which is an interesting method that a lot of people do. If you have multiple platforms, if you're on Twitter and you're on Instagram and you're on LinkedIn and you're on Facebook, you probably don't want to take the time to send a post to each of those individual platforms. So it is possible for you to actually send one post out that appears all places, which is why hashtags started to be seen more on Facebook, because they were actually posts that were going to Twitter showing the same content. So that's why she has a couple of hashtags here. But so essentially we're looking at what's on a phone on Instagram. This is a post from Katie. You see she has 63 people that have liked it. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. When somebody posts, these are my goddaughters. When Orphea, my goddaughter, posted this picture of her with her sister, at the bottom I circled there that at the time 29 people liked it. So when you are on Facebook and you want to comment on a post, you click in the comment section underneath, or you can give it a thumbs up or a heart or whatever you want. When you're on Instagram, the same thing is available to you. You can click on like, which will then put a heart underneath it and it will say liked, or you can click on comment and comment below. I would say that I certainly have commented on things on Instagram, but again, people talk less on Instagram. It's important to sort of wrap your head around the difference between Facebook, which is very talky and has no limit on how much you can say, and Twitter, which used to limit how much you could say, and now Instagram is the leanest of all, because really it's about sharing images and letting somebody know you saw it and liked it, but in fact not necessarily talking about it very much. The other thing that I really like about Instagram is, because it's image-based, Instagram lets you alter an image before you share it. They allow you to have it go through a series of different filters if you want to sort of beef up the image. So this is my goddaughter. I think we were in Costa Rica about to go, when you go down those, I can't remember what it's called, on the wire thing, when you hold on to it, somebody will remember what that's called. The original picture is the picture in the center, which then I could change to black and white by choosing Inkwell, or I could change to the Amaro, which is the one that has a slightly more interesting resolution to it. So I liked originally, when the phone didn't have a lot of apps for you to alter your pictures, I would actually take my photographs, open them in Instagram, use the filter, and then do a screen grab of that picture, because often I could improve upon the photograph. Now there are many other apps that let you do that, and you don't need to do it with Instagram. But Instagram is essentially more used on a handheld device, and its brevity of words and sharing of images. And again, Instagram, you don't need to reciprocate on Instagram. If I were following somebody on Instagram, they might not necessarily be following me. That's up to what you want to do with Instagram. I think if you haven't used it yet, especially with family, you might really enjoy it, especially with younger people in your family, because as communication sort of lessens now more and more with people, Instagram at least is giving you an idea of what they're doing with their time. And sometimes it's, the photographs are just plain fantastic that people are sharing just from a beautiful point of view. So we've talked briefly about Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram. I want to go back to sort of a general conversation about using social media. And I have crossed out the swear word in this post. Now, son, do you know what you did wrong? Yes, sir. I shared something on Facebook without checking facts and encouraged beep to propagate, leading to the dumbing down of humanity. All right, we got to talk about this. I don't care how boring your posts are. If you're posting about your cat falling off the bed, or you're posting photographs of your dinner, all of that is fine as far as I'm concerned. I can ignore it, I can look at it quickly, I can linger on it. That's all your privilege when you see things on social media. But what we have to be super careful about is sharing information that we haven't checked to see whether or not it's true. And this is not a blue issue or a red issue, this is a purple issue. This is an issue for all of us to be concerned about. It's not political. It's really to be sure that we're being as factual as we can be. I remember when blogging first started a long time ago, and as somebody who's writing a book and I'm trying to fact check things, somebody said to me, well, how do you monitor blogs versus journalism? And it's precisely the problem that we've run into. It's all sort of changed how this information gets passed, and a lot of people are getting their information from social media and not from reliable sources. So, most important screen that I'm going to put up for you is Fake News Identified. This is a bipartisan review of sources of information. And you'll see smack in the center are the sources that have been deemed neutral. So it's generally clear information. It doesn't lean one way or the other. And as we move right and left from that center, you'll notice there's sort of an equal amount of partisan information on both sides, and it gets more and more partisan as we move to the outer edges. So I show you this because, one, I sort of want to have everybody be aware this is a 50-50 deal that's going on with partisan information being out there. But I want you to notice who the sources are on the far right and left sides of things. Because when I see a post on Facebook, and I'm going to show you this in a second, I immediately look to see the source. And if the source is on the outside of this image, I start to question the validity of the content. And I certainly won't share it unless I proof it with a more reliable source. And as you move towards the center, you see we're getting, you see more common news sources or information sources. And then we get to the center, which are the ones that I feel pretty confident about what they're posting. So this is a really good template for people to look at and notice the source of what you're looking at and seeing where it falls on this template before you decide to share it. So here's an example. This is a post that I put up on the left-hand side that was put up on Channel 4 news site saying how to fact check fake news sites. And I circled in the bottom left so you can see where you find that information when you see a post on Facebook. Go down to the bottom left and look and see what the original source was, and then go back and look at this chart and see where they fall in the chart. If they're smack in the center, will you source it yourself? Maybe you won't because it's a reliable source. But as you move further to the right or the left side of this chart, I would say you need to source it before you pass it on. And so to source it, two of the easiest places to go to are Snopes.com and factcheck.org. These are completely bipartisan sites. They have no skin in the game as far as what information that they're passing on. They are a great source to just put in the headline of what you're looking at and see whether or not they have it listed as to whether or not it's true or false. They do both. So they'll say if it's true, they'll say if it's false. It's not just false information on their sites. But we are right now sort of the ambassadors for information that we share. And we want to be sure, regardless again of your politics, that we're sharing valid information. So the more we monitor ourselves and watch that, the better off all the information is that's going to be going out there. On an entirely different note about safety, because 85% of people who use social media use it on a handheld device, and I like all of you, even though I don't know who all of you are, but I'm sure I would like you if I met all of you. I want you to be safe. And so I wanted to show you this slide to show you what happens to your spine when you bend your head forward and down to look at your device as opposed to holding it up in front of you. So the very last person has their head down at 60 degrees, which is the equivalent of 60 pounds of weight pulling down on your spine. Now, 60 pounds of weight is the same as 3 gallons of paint, to give you perspective on that, pulling down on our older spines. Lift the phone up. Lift the tablet up when you look at it. Do not look down at it. Even the second person in from the left it's only 15 degrees there, and that's 27 pounds of weight. That's 1 gallon of paint pulling down on your spine. So to the best of your ability from now on, hold that device up when you're doing your social media, or set it on a table or something, you know, one of those slanted tables in front of you like a reading desk if you're sitting down on the sofa and you're looking at it. I want to walk you through some information on my website, because I have one you see circled there, my social media links that you can go to. But on the website, I have obviously information about the book, which I would love it if you bought it if you haven't already. But I also have a lot of free information that I just want to be sure you guys are aware of. I'm going to go back to this slide for a second. If you click on resources in the top right there, what you'll come up with is a page for teachers and librarians, because I wonder if in this group, I'm sure we have some people who are teachers or librarians or are married to or have children that are. They are the backbone of our society, and they're often the go-to people for technology. So I created a long list of teachers and librarians, so they're not the ones always answering the questions that come their way. I also have 16 tutorial videos set up on my page, on my website. And those tutorials are there specifically because they wouldn't fit in the book, but some of them are there to help you do things like put a passcode on your mobile device, or how to deal with Apple's new mouse, or how to search on a tablet. So I welcome you to come to the site to look at the free videos, and you'll notice underneath them at the bottom they all say click here for printable instructions. Those printable instructions, here's a sample, are broken down by whatever platform you're using, and they're step-by-step instructions. You can print them and watch the videos and then do whatever it is you're doing with your computer or your device that the video has shown you. I've been negligent about writing a newsletter, but if you want to join my newsletter in case I get back on board with it, please do. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, that was unnecessary and unexpected. Join my newsletter. Oh no, that's my phone saying I've been speaking for 40 minutes. And now I'm allergic to questions, but I'll take them now. My sneezing fit happened at exactly the right moment.
Okay. Let me get back. We got about a couple questions.
Oh, great.
And then we'll get back to what's called up. This was going back to when you were talking about the sleep or the follow or something. There's questions is, does the person you unfollow get a message to that effect?
It's always the question everybody asks, and it's such a smart question to ask. The answer is no. So if you unfollow somebody so that you don't see their posts, they don't get a notice. And if you actually go so far as to unfriend them, they don't get a notice. If they only have 5 friends on Facebook and
Okay.
one disappears, they might be able to do the math about who left. get a notice that you have.
Okay, the tsunami is still going through your internet.
That their numbers have gone down.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a great answer.
Do I? Oh no. What was the question?
Okay, no, I just said you asked about not following, and then about halfway through it cut out on you.
Oh no.
Okay, well, let's go to the next question.
Oh dear, I'm so sorry. The answer is no. Sure.
Yeah, okay. The question is, assume identities of friends on Facebook Messenger with private security issues are concerned. Is the best solution deleting Messenger altogether? Did you understand the question?
I did understand the question. So I don't use Messenger, and I don't know anything about the security of it, but I would say if there's anything that you don't.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's go back to another. Your internet's getting tired.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming in and out. I mean, you were doing so well there for a. It's just like something's going through and just pulling off your bandwidth. The question is, who created that fake news slide?
She's just not always as good. Oh shoot! I'll look up the source for it. I have it in the original blog that I wrote about it, but I don't remember the name.
I tell you what, since it's doing this,